nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. It's Monday, May 2nd, and welcome to the Rutland City Board of Aldermen meeting. First item on the agenda, the minutes of the previous meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Motion, it's been seconded to approve the minutes of the previous meeting. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. All right. Next item on the agenda, outside the rail. Is there anyone outside the rail that is not on the agenda this evening that would like to speak? Go on up, Danielle.
Good.
Danielle, can you just state your name and your city of residence?
Absolutely. My name is Danielle Monroe. I'm a resident of Mendon, and I'm here tonight representing Wonder Feet Kids Museum.
Awesome.
All right. So thank you all for allowing me to speak. We have submitted earlier yesterday our formal request to the city for $150,000 of the city's ARPA fund to fund an expansion and move for Wonder Feet Kids Museum to the Green Mountain Power Energy Innovation Center. Many of you here tonight have already had a chance to come and visit us on Center Street, see what we've done with that facility there, and hear about our impact in the community. But if I can just have a few minutes, I want to reflect on how we got to this point. So the idea of a children's museum was first brought up during the Creative Economy local forums back in 2010. It was quickly latched onto by members of the community as an innovative driver of traffic and tourism dollars to our downtown. And call it coincidence or luck or just the magic of Rutland, but an amazing team of individuals rallied around that cause. We had Myra Peffer, who was at the time working at CCV, but brought with her decades of experience in children's museums. And we had Yoshi Akiyama, a former Disney Imagineer who had retired to Manchester, but through connections at Green Screen Graphics, decided to join the project. And we had obviously plenty of volunteers from the community, from teachers and retired educators to parents and local business people. And what was, at the time, the city committed $75,000 from the Zamias Fund to help make that vision a reality. And in less than 10 years, they were able to take that spark and turn Wonder Feet into a real children's museum with a professional staff, a permanent location on Center Street, and over 15,000 visitors a year coming through our doors and into our downtown. This proposed expansion for Wonder Feet is going to continue that tradition of collaboration between the city, our business community, and passionate individuals who are willing to invest in our most important asset, the children and families of Rutland. As you've heard and read, Wonder Feet is an important economic driver for downtown, not just because we bring thousands of visitors a year who are spending their dollars in our shops and cafes and restaurants, but also because we are a guiding light that's helping to attract young professional families to the area, bringing with that, adding to our tax base and bringing their own intellectual capital with them. As one family told us, when we moved to Rutland, Wonder Feet made us feel welcomed and held, and it provided an immediate rooting for us. I cannot imagine Rutland or our lives without it. This proposed expansion will also be part of revitalizing the Merchants Row block of downtown, bringing energy, and most importantly, supporting the healthy development of our kids and raising the next generation of Rutlanders that are going to live and work and thrive here in the city. We already have 2 corporate partners who've signed on. Green Mountain Power has committed to leasing the Energy Innovation Center to us for $1 a year for a minimum of 10 years, with a 10-year expansion after that. And Casella has stepped forward to commit almost half of our proposed budget for the design and build of the new space. For both of these companies, this is not a hollow commitment. This is a game-changing partnership that values the future they see for their employees, their own families, and their neighbors. I think the Energy Innovation Center name is an apt one. As we all know, no one has more energy than young children, and this plan is truly innovative, and that is it is a collaboration between a nonprofit, private business partners, and a community that has shown time and time again that when we come together, we can accomplish things that belie our small size. The most common sentiment we hear from visitors is, "We would give anything to have a place like this in our community. How did such a small town make this happen?" But of course, that's no surprise to those of us who live here. We've seen magic happen again and again when we choose to come together. And this is an opportunity to unite Rutland again around an idea full of potential, positivity, and forward thinking. So we are very pleased to present to you our proposal, and we look forward to working with you to answer any other questions that you have.
Great. Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions?
Talk about energy, holy.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move to refer to the Finance Committee.
Second.
We have a motion to refer to Finance Committee. It's been seconded. Any discussion, questions, comments? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much,
Thank
Danielle.
you.
And if anybody has a chance to ask Danielle how she became part of the center at some point, it's a great story. So thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak from outside the rail this evening that's not on the agenda? Going up to the podium, please state your name and your city of residence.
Hi, good evening. Kathleen Kravetsky from Roberts Avenue. I have a question, actually. I would like to know if the Board of Aldermen received the proposal that I have submitted for the College of St. Joseph. Did everybody get a copy of that in your packet?
Yep, that was in their packet 2 meetings ago, yes.
It was in their packet 2 minutes, so everybody got it? Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Wonderful. Is there anyone else from outside the rail that's not on the agenda this evening that would like to speak? Fantastic. All right, moving on. Communications from the mayor.
Okay, well, good evening, everyone. I just wanted to mention a couple of things that went on over this last weekend, and to honor one of our retiring employees here in the city of Rutland. On Friday, Tom Markowski, 44-year member of the DPW, retired, and we want to thank him for his service. He's been a tremendous employee for a lot of years, and I wanted to take a minute to recognize him publicly here tonight. So thank you, Tom, very much, if you happen to be watching. Also, just a couple of events that went on this weekend. As many of you know, the Vintage Market Days happened down at the Rutland Fairgrounds. I don't know how many of you got a chance to get down there, but my wife and I went down on Saturday, and there was literally hundreds, if not thousands, of people down there. It was very difficult to find a parking space. This is the 3rd or 4th year that event's been held down there. It was 3 days, really successful event, brought a lot of people into this community. They spent a lot of money in the restaurants and the hotels, and this is an event that we should recognize and try to continue to support. So that was a good thing. Also, on Saturday night, those of you I know, the board president was there, but there was a little event called the Real Rutland Feud, and I got to tell you, I was sitting up at the back, but it was quite an event. The place was filled. I will say that the Rutland City Police and the Rutland City Fire Department represented the city of Rutland very well. I don't want to say who came out on top, but I guess I will, since the chief's right here. But it was there was a lot of give and take, and it was a well done event, and raised a lot of money for Cedar and the chamber, and we appreciate all those efforts. So that in turn was a good event. Helped all the businesses downtown. I know they partook in the restaurants and spent some time downtown. And lastly, I wanted to thank the organizers of the Loyalty Day Parade, which happened yesterday. It's been 3-4 years since we've had a parade in downtown Rutland. It was well attended. We had a beautiful day. I know the organizers, including Mr. Gillum here, put in a lot of time putting that together. It was, I don't know how many units we're in. It wasn't quite as big as it was in previous years, but considering it's been 4 years, it was well done. and we recognize those who have served our country and who are serving our country. And the turnout was great. There was lots of folks downtown, so I want to show my appreciation for that. So thank you very much. And those are the things I wanted to talk about tonight, all positive. So thanks.
Any questions for the mayor? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
All right, moving on. Additions and deletions to the agenda. Does anyone in the room have additions or deletions to the agenda?
So I believe the assistant clerk had sent
Yes.
something, and that,
That is
Yeah.
we need to add that.
Wonderful. So that's, I was going to bring that up next. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Fantastic. So we're adding a SEP request for the Memorial Day service for the VFW to the agenda. And actually, if there are no objections, I would like to skip ahead to petitions, letters, and miscellaneous communications and start with that. Is that okay with everyone? All right, so there's an SEP request for the president to sign the VFW Memorial Day service SEP request.
So I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rules has been seconded. All those in favor? Any opposed?
And I'll move to authorize the chair to sign.
Okay.
Second.
Motion to authorize the chair to sign the SEP request for the Memorial Day service from the VFW. And it's been seconded. Any discussion, questions, comments? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay. Second SEP request from the Homeless Prevention Center, Spring Sprockets Fun Ride, Pine Hill Park, May 7th, 10 to 2 p.m., and it is pages 66 and 70 in your packet.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion, okay.
And I'll move for the approval and authorize the chair to sign.
All right. A motion has been seconded to authorize the signing of the Spring Sprockets Fun Ride. Any discussion? Great. None here heard. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic. Third SEP request for the Rotary South Club Coin Drop Fundraiser for Ukraine Relief, May 21st, 9 to 2 p.m. Also in your packet, pages 71 to 74.
Motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
Motion has been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
And I'll move to authorize the chair to sign the Coin Drop Rotary South Club Ukraine Relief event.
Can I put an amendment on that pending the certificate of insurance showing up?
Okay. Pending the certificate of insurance. Are you good with the amendment?
I am.
Okay, great. So, motion to approve the coin drop fundraiser, pending certificate of insurance. Any, go ahead.
I'm going to exclude myself from the vote because I have a conflict of interest in the Rotarian,
Okay,
the club.
very good. Any other discussion?
And I'm the one that helped them put that packet together. That's why I knew about the certificate. So
Thank you, Alderman Gillum.
I'm not in favor of coin drops. Don't get me wrong.
That was very honest.
But you're in favor of the revenue.
But thank you for working on it. All right. Hearing no more discussion, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Fantastic. All right. And the reason we skipped ahead, Cass Environmental Science and Engineering Eco Car Wash. Request for water allocation. This is page 75 through 78 in your packet. Do you guys want to come up and say anything?
Do you want a brief description of what we're doing?
That would be fantastic.
Oh, okay. So, hi everyone. My name is Aaron Vincelet. I'm the creator of Eco Car Wash. I don't know if any of you have been up to Burlington, Williston area in a while, but right there in Williston we have an Eco Car Wash that I designed and developed. The facility was built out of decommissioned battleships. I'm a former Marine, and it's self-sustaining in a way that it doesn't need lights during the daytime because it has a polyacrylic roof on the top. That's our lighting. And we recycle our water. We also use biodegradable soaps, so we don't have any phosphates or anything in it. So we're in a process right now of spreading Eco Car Wash throughout the state of Vermont. We have a second one in Plattsburgh functioning right now. We have a third one that's getting ready to start in Shelburne, Vermont. And we're now focusing here in Rutland, and then right after that, we'll be in Brattleboro. The whole concept of Eco Car Wash is to provide a low monthly cost for people to come and be wherever they are in Vermont and get their car washed, however they need. As cars are getting more and more technical, they have a lot more sensors on them. These sensors need to operate all the time. You know, Vermont roads are dirty, and we want to be able to provide a service for people to keep their sensors clean as we move into the electric world as well. So today we are announcing to you that we're about a week away from closing on the Ground Round property, and we will be tearing that building down and providing a brand new site there. It will have an entirely enclosed indoor vacuum area for people. The vacuums will be free for everyone to use as they need, and there will also be mat washing stations there for people to clean their mats as well. So that's it in a nutshell. And so tonight we're here to request an allocation for water, and that's our next step before we can start applying for the Act 250 process.
Fantastic. Alderwoman
I'll
Davis.
move to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I'll move to approve the requested water allocation of 8,659 gallons per day to the Splash Car Wash Rutland for the proposed Eco Car Wash at 599 US 7 in Rutland Town.
Second.
We have a motion. It has been seconded. Any discussions, comments, questions? Fantastic. Hearing none, would all those in favor please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much for coming down.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, good luck. All right. Moving back up on the agenda to reports and letters from department heads and officials. Chief KilCullen, request authorization for disposal of city-owned unmarked vehicle due to collision.
Well, thanks. Actually, I thought I'd be coming to you anyway to ask for permission to dispose of this car because it's not inspectable. But we had, fortunately, someone hit the car, and we're actually getting a lot more money for it. So in this case, as I said, the car was in an accident. Someone hit us. The insurance company, we filed a claim with the other drivers, the at-fault drivers company, and they decided to total it out for the grand total of, I think, of over $5,000. So it's about $4,900 more than he would have gotten.
Okay.
So
Pretty good, Chief, on that.
It was an accident.
it was an accident.
I know.
So asking for permission to basically sign it over to the other insurance company and then accept the proceeds of roughly $5,000 some dollars.
Okay. So we'll put a potential motion to sign over the remaining property of what's left of the vehicle to authorize whatever proper city official.
Suspend the rules.
Oh, okay, sorry. I was just discussing it.
Suspend the motion.
Go ahead.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Great.
And then I'll make a motion to authorize the chief to dispose of the unmarked vehicle due to collision.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion. It's been seconded.
Does it need to be earmarked to a fund?
Alderwoman
Well,
Davis.
that's my question. And where is the money? Is the money going to back to an equipment replacement fund or?
Yeah, I would include that
In the equipment replacement
With the
fund?
proceeds to be designated for the equipment
And I agree.
replacement fund.
Okay, so we have a motion to take the vehicle and dispose of it and put the remaining funds back into the vehicle replacement fund. Any comments, questions, or discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Good job.
Good job, Chief. Lucky you. Up on your side.
All right, we have a letter that I'm gonna read from the Rutland Police Department. Give me 1 second here to pull it up. There we go. On April 4th, 2022, several members of the Rutland City Police Department, to include myself, this is Sergeant Charles Whitehead, by the way, gathered for the Board of Aldermen meeting in City Hall in reference to the Finance Committee's recommendation. While attending this meeting, I was extremely appreciative of the board's overall support for our local police officers. The financial commitment you made with a unanimous vote speaks volumes to our officers and shows your continued support of us during a trying time. As you can imagine, being extremely short-staffed over the last year or more, and with the current nationwide climate towards police officers in general, it can take a toll on all of us and our families. I truly appreciate the financial sign of support, but more importantly, and personally, along with other members of the department, truly appreciate the board's willingness to publicly voice their support for us during this meeting. It was made clear to me that you truly support our department, our officers, and will take steps necessary to keep our department moving in a positive direction. Respectfully, Sergeant Charles Whitehead, Rutland City Police Department.
I'll move to receive and file.
Second.
We have a motion to receive and file. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, there you go. Moving on. Brennan Duffy from the RRA, the BIAP Forgivable Loan Agreement for True Yoga. This is page 2 in your packet.
Good evening, everyone. I am here tonight to discuss BIAP Forgivable Loan that was made about 3 years ago to True North Yoga, doing business as True Yoga Vermont, located there on Whale Street. And they have fulfilled their obligations over the 3-year term of the forgivable loan, actually increased their new employment that was promised by a couple as far as yoga instructors. They've done, I think, a really nice job of redeveloping and reusing that vacant space. If you all recall, that had sat vacant and was really an eyesore for a number of years before Liz Patno purchased that and took over there. So the RRA has reviewed the criteria and reviewed their final report and has deemed that they have met all their obligations. So our recommendation to the Board of Aldermen is to make that a forgivable loan. Make the forgivable loan a grant at this point and not collect that. And there is a sentence at the bottom there saying further, the city attorney would ask that you allow the mayor to make that determination to the owner of the business and the loan borrower.
Alderman Talbot.
A motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And a motion to authorize the mayor to notify the borrowers and treasurer that the loan has been forgiven by a vote on today's date.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion or questions for Brennan or anyone else? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. All right, and you're staying up here.
I am. I have one other thing. So I was asked just to give a brief rundown of what happened last Monday. We had our scoping study presentation at the Paramount Theater. I first want to really thank the staff and Eric Millett of the Paramount Theater for allowing us to use that space for the presentations that were done that night. It was really a good venue for what we were doing. Just as brief history here, I think most folks are aware of this, but maybe for folks working at home, we have been undergoing this scoping study process here for about a year. We had hired DuBois & King as a consulting engineer to help with that work, and then we have a steering committee that's met pretty regularly over the period of time to kind of keep track of that and move it forward. What came out of that, or the original process, was some public forums to get ideas of what people would like to see and to throw out some ideas of what could happen there. Our consultant then took those back and fleshed out 3 conceptual plans of what Center Street could look like as an implemented project. One of those is to have very similar to what it looks like in the summer with the parklets, with kind of narrow travel lanes and additional space for pedestrians and commercial. Second concept was to do a one-way street, which would actually increase the pedestrian space and commercial space significantly, which would basically head west on Center Street there from Wales down to Merchants Row. And then a third concept was to actually close the street to motorized traffic and make it a pedestrian-only area. So those were the three concepts that were presented last Monday at the Paramount. And then the consultant team had set up a way for folks that were in attendance to vote for things that they liked or didn't like related to the features and details, and also to vote on what they thought would be the best future option there, whether it was the two-way, the one-way, or the pedestrian only. So we had some really good engagement. The first session we did was just for property owners and business owners of businesses along that Center Street stretch, and we had about 40 folks attended that. And then we opened up the next session to anybody from the community that wanted to come and learn about it and give comment as well. So we thought that went really well. We had a good turnout for both of those. We also, if you were unable to make one of those meetings, have a survey that is ongoing right now. It's actually hosted on the Downtown Rutland Partnership's website. And that's a way for anyone who couldn't make those two meetings to still give input and thoughts of what they'd like to see and learn a little bit more about the project. So that's kind of where we are right now. Again, once that survey closes, our consultant will be putting together a draft final report for us. We're hoping to have that probably before the end of the fiscal year, I would think, maybe before that even. And then we would like to come back with that to the Board of Aldermen and talk about what the consultant's recommendations are. I think the RRA will be involved in kind of giving a recommendation of what we think could happen there, as well as probably the Downtown Rutland Partnership Board. So we'll all have some ability to kind of find out what was learned and what we'd like to see and make a recommendation. I think ultimately the Board of Aldermen would be the entity that would say we're going to move forward as a community with 1, 2, or 3, or none of those options that have been developed, but that will be the next step. So I don't know that we need to refer anything tonight. We can wait another month and a half till we have all the detail and then bring it into committee. But that's exciting. I will say the one thing that we learned from that, even without the consultants kind of compiling their public input, was that people want to see something happen there. There were very few, if any, votes to keep it as a two-way street the way it is right now. A lot of votes to make it the one-way and allow the additional pedestrian space, and a lot of votes to actually look at closing the street and making it pedestrian only. So those will all get weighed, and we'll have some further discussions about it, but that's kind of where we are right now. Again, I guess I would urge anybody that wasn't there that would like to learn more or give some input to go on to that survey link and fill that out. And again, we're excited about the process so far. It's been good, and we're looking forward to implementing something that will be really transformative downtown. So that's all I have. Happy to answer questions.
Wonderful. Alderman Gillum.
When's the survey date close?
May 16th. So you got 2 weeks to go on there.
Thank you.
All right. Sorry, Alderman DePoy.
What do you call you?
I said all right, and then I said Alderman.
I can't repeat what he
Yeah,
called
well,
me. So Brennan, I floated the idea a long time ago, like 10, 12 years, maybe even longer than that, about a possible, if you were to go with closing it off, maybe putting a canopy over the top from Wales to Center. And even, if we got funding, if we, found that it really took off with that, even going around the corner, but, especially with, the malls closing and, people seeming to come back downtown quite a bit, I would think at this point in time, that might be something that would encourage with the traffic, with the, parking deck and the walkthrough, encourage people to come to Center Street, Merchants Row, and at least be shielded from inclement weathers like today, snowstorms in Christmas time, that sort of thing. And, you don't, obviously wouldn't heat it or anything, but just something that keeps the pedestrian traffic to the point where you can do more things on Center Street, even if it is a little colder out. People can brave the cold as long as they're not getting either rained or snowed on, I think, a lot better. So, something to think about, obviously, a probably distant future thing, but when we last talked about shutting down Center Street, that was an idea that I thought could have wings at some point. So, kind of keep that in mind as you're talking about what to do in future years on Center Street.
Sure. Any other questions? So, thank you very much, Brett.
Okay, thank you guys.
Okay, moving on. Attorney Bloomer. We're going to talk about the amendment to Chief Lovett's employment contract first. That's pages 3 and 4 in your packets.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, so about 2 meetings ago, Chief Lovett had come looking for authorization to be paid out of the Emergency Management Fund, and that was due to his current contract requires that he get the board's approval for that. And at the time, the board asked me to draft an amendment so that he'd be allowed to draw from that line as long as there were funds that had been previously approved through the budget. So I've done that. I've drafted the amendment, and I provided you with a memo that hopefully folks have had a chance to read. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. I've included the motion if it is something that the board would like to authorize the mayor to sign on behalf of the city.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rules has been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And I'll move to authorize the mayor on behalf of the city to sign the amendment number 1 to employment agreement between the city and Chief Lovett in substantially the form presented.
Second.
Okay, we have the motion. It has been seconded. Any discussions, questions, comments for the city attorney? All right. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Very cool. All right, moving on. Attorney Bloomer, public notice for shopping cart ordinance amendments.
Sure. So again, I provided a short memorandum, but for purposes of creating the public notice and the advertisement in the Herald for the shopping cart ordinance that you passed last meeting, because the changes are fairly significant, it's not economically feasible to list everything or provide basically a verbatim copy of the changes. So the charter provides that if a summary is to be used in its place, that be drafted by the city attorney and approved by the Board of Aldermen. So I've attached on page 6 my proposal for summarizing the substance of the amendments, and this would be the public notice that would, I think, be posted and placed into the Herald to notify the public that it's been approved.
Okay, Alderman Talbot?
Motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
And motion to approve the statements setting forth the substance of the proposed amendments to the shopping cart ordinance in the forms presented.
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussions or questions for the city attorney? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Mary Markowski, treasurer, you are up. First item is approval of lease purchase of police vehicles.
Okay, so this comes through Board of Finance. Board of Finance reviews the purchase of the vehicles, and then the financing arrangement really requires the Board of Aldermen review and approval. So the police, in 2013, I think I shared that master lease agreement. The board had approved the process of leasing police vehicles. So this will be our 6th lease from that master lease agreement of police cars. We started doing 3, now we do 2 vehicles, but so what I'm looking for here is board approval for the financing agreement that was attached.
Okay.
I'll move to suspend the rules.
Second.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. It's been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? All right.
And I'll move to approve the 3-year lease purchase of the police department vehicles with a net sale price of $70,114.70, and to authorize the mayor to sign the lease documents, subject to the attorney's review and subject to the treasurer's review of the financing, with a rate not to exceed 5.8%.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the financing. It's been seconded. Any questions or comments? Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, and now we're on to DPW, wastewater, and plow trucks.
Okay, so I separated all of them because they are three separate issues, but the same, coming through Board of Finance and looking to the Board of Aldermen for review. Now, these, I think I have the Streets Division here, or the Wastewater Division, and these vehicles are budgeted in FY '23. We probably won't actually receive the vehicles until maybe a year from now. But we want to secure the financing and lock in the rate. So that's what this arrangement was for, so.
Any questions?
I'll suspend the rules.
Okay.
Second.
Motion to suspend the rules has been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're good.
And I'll move to approve the 7-year lease purchase of the wastewater division front plow for the net sale of $163,233 and authorize the mayor to sign the lease documents subject to the attorney review and subject to the treasurer's review of financing with a rate not to exceed 3.95%.
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussions or questions? Alderwoman Davis.
So, if I can, Mary, so the amount in the budget is for lease? I just don't recall.
Yes, that's what we, in the wastewater budget, there was a 7-year lease, a projected amount in that budget line, and in the next one we'll see in the streets in the general fund.
Okay, so is this amount what we budgeted, or is this
It's a little
less
less.
than?
Yeah, it's a
Okay.
little bit less. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic. And then, so we have one more. of these,
We
right?
just have one more, and this is in the streets budget. So this is in the general fund streets budget, the lease payment for this one. You can see with the detail that the wastewater plant, what their needs were a little bit different than the streets department. So you see a little bit different motion there on what we're borrowing. So I would ask the same for this one. Approval of this lease.
Okay.
All right.
All right. Alderman
Motion-
Talbot.
Motion to suspend the rules?
Okay, motion,
Second.
motion to suspend the rules has been seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
And motion to approve the 7-year lease purchase of the DPW Streets front plow truck for the net sales price of $174,523 and authorize the mayor to sign the lease documents subject to attorney review and subject to the treasurer's review of the financing with a rate not to exceed 3.95%.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Alderman Talbot. It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to reports of standing committees. Alderman Whitcomb, can I ask that you do the news story report first? Or the second report first and the first report second? Thank you. Because they're all here, so.
Sure, thank you, President Doenges. So on April 28th, the Finance Committee met. The topic was the Housing Trust presenting a CSJ study funding request and news story funding request. Members of the committee present were Alderwoman Davis, Alderman Attore, Savage, Talbot, and Whitcomb. Others present were Mayor Allaire, President Doenges, Alderwoman Taddeo, Treasurer Markowski, Brennan Duffy, Mary Cohen, Lyle Jepson, Tyler Richardson, Elizabeth Koulis, Kathleen Kravetsky, Jennifer Yukonovich, and I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, Avaloy Lanning, Aaron Hubble, and Gordon Drashillo. The meeting was called to order at 5:30 p.m. The first item addressed was a Housing Trust request for the funding of a feasibility study at the former College of St. Joseph campus. Mary Cohen provided an overview of the request for funding, citing the importance of this first step in developing the former CSJ property. Brennan Duffy provided detail of work done previously regarding the feasibility studies and cited entities that engaged with the former CSJ campus. Brennan and Mary highlighted the purpose of requesting a consultant to conduct a feasibility study was to bring together multiple community stakeholders to identify the highest and best use of the property for the Rutland community. Alderwoman Savage asked if Heritage Family Credit Union is the current owner of the property and if there was anything that prevented the sale of the property at any time. Brennan expressed that site control was an issue of consideration. Brennan relayed that Heritage Family Credit Union indicated they had a fiduciary responsibility to sell the property. Brennan explained that the property is not currently listed, though, and that Heritage Family Credit Union has expressed an interest in helping the community determine the property's best use. Brennan relayed that Heritage Family Credit Union was not willing to invest money toward the consultant and study at this time. Brennan shared that if a potential buyer for the property emerged, it was very possible that Heritage would sell the property. Brennan shared with the committee why he believed a feasibility study would provide a positive return on investment. Lyle Jepson spoke to the importance of housing as it relates to larger community businesses attracting new employees. Mary also reiterated the importance of housing at the location and the intention to work together with local business partners. Alderwoman Savage inquired what the scope of the Heartland study entailed. Brennan explained that the study largely focused on senior housing. The committee discussed the importance and focus of market rate housing in the city and the development's impact on the Grand West. Brennan stated to the committee that the specific request of the committee is to authorize an amount not to exceed $30,000 to go toward the feasibility study. Mayor Allaire shared that his concern in not taking action was that it had been a significant period of time that had passed without any development. Alderman Whitcomb asked if we did not proceed with a feasibility study at this time, what certainty did we have that the property would immediately sell? Mary and Brennan both expressed that if placed on the market, it could sell and it may not be purchased by an individual or group that develops the property in a way that benefits the city. Alderwoman Davis expressed her support and sees the goal as the development of this property in conjunction with identified community efforts. Alderman Talbot inquired what the end goal of the feasibility study is. Brennan explained that the goal is for the feasibility study to spur investment from local investors and that the investments would help meet the identified community needs. Alderman Davis expressed that she feels more comfortable knowing that there has been interest expressed from local developers. Elizabeth Coolidge shared that other areas of the state have planners employed by the municipality who would traditionally engage in this work, something that Rutland does not maintain. Elizabeth explained that there is a precedent set in the state of Vermont for municipal planners to engage in feasibility studies for properties that are privately owned. Alderman Attore disclosed that he has worked with an interested party to the former CSJ location, but does not maintain a financial stake. Alderman Attore expressed his thoughts relative to the former CSJ location, citing the need to develop, but asked if property was better served through the natural forces of the free market. Alderman Attore expressed his interest in a citywide feasibility study rather than a study focused on solely the former CSJ location. Alderwoman Davis made a motion to authorize an amount not to exceed $30,000 from the fund formerly known as ARPA to go toward a feasibility study for a master plan identifying the highest and best use of the former CSJ property and to be managed by the Housing Trust. The motion passed 5-0, and I so move.
Second.
We have a motion that's been seconded. Any discussion? Comments? Questions? Alderman Torrey.
Thank you. As I mentioned in the meeting, I've been working with a group of people who are also interested in the CSJ property, as are a few other folks, some in this room. They actually had a meeting today, and this topic was brought up. And a few of the members of the group were excited about the opportunity to participate in helping shape the vision for other potential investors in the property. I still have my personal concerns of using city money to put together a feasibility study for a private development. I have those concerns. I am wondering, if we can. So in here, one of the parts that Alderman Whitcomb wrote was that this would help spur investment from local investors. And so I guess my first question would be to Brennan or whoever from the group who would like to answer that, of how would a feasibility study spur investment from other investors other than the ones who are currently interested, whether there are any of the parties who are interested. How could we spur investment from other local investors? How will this do that? And as a caveat of that, is this the outcome of this study public document? Does the product belong to the city? And I would like to make sure that we add that to the motion, because I do believe if we're going to fund it, then it should be a public document.
So I'm happy to answer that. If I can, I'll just do it from here if you can hear me. So I think they go together there. Yes, it would be a public document. It would be owned by the city or shared with the city. I think that's how we spur public investment. This is a public process. We get the word out that we're looking for partners to come in and give their vision. We talk about what that could be. At the end of the day, this final report would bring together the best ideas that are out there and try to bring them forward with the ultimate goal of finding partners. And it might not be one partner, it might be multiple that would be able to take that plan forward and find ways to work together to build out that campus, redevelop it for, again, housing as an option or whatever that might be. But it's certainly, the whole goal of this, I guess, is to spur something happening that will be a positive change to a dormant campus that we've seen for years.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments, or discussion? Alderman Tory.
So I'd like to make a motion to amend the motion on the floor to add that, ensure that the product of this study will be owned by the city.
Okay. So there is a motion to amend on the floor that the result of the study is the property of the city.
Second.
Well, if I may,
Yeah, please.
the maker of the motion has to agree, as does the seconder.
We can vote down yes or no on the amendment without them agreeing first.
True.
Yeah, so
But
let's take that procedure.
That's all right.
That's okay. So we have a motion to amend and it's been seconded. Is there any discussion on the amendment? Okay, all those in favor to amend, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so now it's been amended, so now the entire motion, would you mind reading it again and then we'll throw the amendment on at the end?
Sure, so we have a motion to authorize an amount not to exceed $30,000 from the fund formerly known as ARPA to go toward a feasibility study for a master plan identifying the highest and best use of the former CSJ property to be managed by the Housing Trust and
property, the feasibility study is property of the city.
And this feasibility remains the property.
for the feasibility study to be maintained as property of
As
the
a
city.
seconder, I will agree.
And the seconder agrees. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Very good.
Okay.
So moving on.
Moving on.
Next we had on the agenda, news story. The next on the agenda was News Story Center. Ava Lloyd Lanning provided an overview of News Story, including the services they provide, and provided a background on the request for funds. Ava Lloyd explained funding would go toward the development of 6 additional housing units for women and children in need of emergency housing. She explained that the project would help avoid housing individuals and families in motels and would allow for improved wraparound services. Alderman Davis inquired what the total cost of the project would be. Ava Lloyd shared that the total cost of the project was just over $1 million. She explained that they secured $750,000 in funding to date. She also discussed the News Story is preparing to begin a capital campaign where they would be reaching out to multiple community partners and entities. Elizabeth Colas provided an overview of the planning, permitting, and development process. Mayor Allaire shared with the committee his admiration and support of News Story and the positive work they engage in. Alderman Doenges inquired as to the utilization of a capital fund campaign and if it would go toward operating costs beyond the need for this specific process. Ava Lloyd confirmed that any amount that exceeded the cost of the current project would go toward additional needs of News Story. A motion was made by Alderwoman Savage to authorize $100,000 from the fund formerly known as ARPA to be allocated to the News Story housing project. The motion passed 5-0, and I so move.
Second.
Motion to approve the funds for News Story and has been seconded. Any discussions, questions, or comments? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Do you want to say anything real quick? Or?
Just thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
You're good. And feel free to take off if you want. Thank you, everybody. You're welcome to stay. Thank you for coming. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in here though, right?
Yes.
How they put it?
All right, proceeding on. I can't believe people didn't want to hear about the 2021 City of Rutland audit, but that is what we have next. This is from April 19th. The members present were Alderman Tory, Salvage, Talbot, and Wickham. Others present were Mayor Allaire, President Doenges, Alderman Franco, Treasurer Markowski, and Fred Duplessis. The meeting was called to order at 5:30 p.m. Fred discussed with the group the parameters of the audit. Fred shared with the group that Rutland City received an unmodified opinion, or the highest level opinion that can be received in an audit. Fred discussed with the group the section titled Management's Discussion and Analysis. Fred turned his attention to the section of the audit that covered the financial statements for the City of Rutland. He highlighted the unassigned fund balance, citing that he felt the amount maintained was adequate for government operations if needed. He discussed with the group the fiduciary of funds and items included within the fund. He then turned his attention to the notes section and the financial section. Fred highlighted the section that included discount rate and how slight variations could impact investments and potentially have significant impact on the portion of the city's share related to pension liability. He additionally highlighted how the discount rate could impact the city's healthcare liability. Fred discussed with the group the pension trust fund, and the city has moved significantly closer to fully funding the pension over the course of the last decade. Fred then discussed with the group the city's OPEB liability, an increase that has occurred over the previous years. He provided an overview of the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. Fred highlighted the expectations of the federal government related to operating and maintaining these funds. He discussed the ARPA funds and the advantages related to putting it toward municipal operating expenses. Fred discussed a section on prior audit findings and noted that all items listed have been addressed since the previous audit. The meeting adjourned at 6:06 p.m., and this is for informational purposes only.
Thank you very much. Okay, Alderman Neary, Charter and Ordinance Retail Cannabis Policies, pages 7 through 29 in your packet.
The Rutland City Charter and Ordinance Committee met on April 20th, 2022. Members present were Alderman Neary, Alderman Ettore, Alderman Gillum, Alderwoman Taddeo. Others present, Alderwoman Savage, Alderman Doenges, Alderman Wickham, Alderwoman Davis, Mayor Lair, Attorney Bloomer, Josh and Anna McDuff, Heather Brouillard, Chief KilCullen, Sean Sargent, and Kiana McClure. The meeting was called to order at 5:31 p.m. The first item on the agenda was retail cannabis and whether the city would establish a local control commission. Neary started the meeting by referencing the Retail Cannabis Municipal Guidance document and read Section B, Municipal Regulatory Authority, which states that a municipality may regulate cannabis establishments to the same extent they may regulate any other business under their authority to create zoning bylaws, 24 VSA 4414, and their authority to regulate signs and other public nuisances, 24 VSA section 2291. Municipalities may regulate any cannabis establishment license type in this manner. Attorney Bloomer then gave an overview of the municipal guidance and stated that the State Control Board has made it explicit that municipalities may not regulate retail cannabis more than any other business beyond zoning, signage, and nuisance. Attorney Bloomer stated that more research on state case law was needed to understand what nuisance and signage ordinance could be established. Mayor Lair asked about local control commission's regulatory authority, and Attorney Bloomer stated that the local control commission is limited by the State Control Board to the 3 regulatory areas. The local control commission would act similarly to the Board of Control Commissioners, and the Board of Aldermen could serve as the members. Sean Sargent asked if the city would require cannabis to have annual license renewal like liquor, and the committee agreed that the local control commission would require that renewal process to maintain good relationships with cannabis businesses. Josh McDuff did express some concern as a prospective retail business and wanted to be sure that no one business was targeted and the process was fair and transparent. The committee also reviewed the memorandum prepared by Zoning Administrator Staninsky. The memo discussed the current zoning map and districts as they relate to retail and integrated cannabis operations. The retail stores are allowed in larger areas of downtown and along the gateways of routes 4 and 7. The districts associated with retail and integrated cannabis are retail, cottage, and light industry. Staninsky suggested that the committee utilize the current zoning maps and transition to new zoning bylaws once approved within the next year. Attorney Bloomer suggested an additional executive session may be warranted to discuss specifics on the definition of the cottage and light industry districts as they relate to cannabis. The city does have the ability to zone for cannabis, but overall it cannot create additional restrictions beyond other similar types of businesses. Sean Sargent also asked about security and cash-heavy businesses putting undue strain on Rutland Police Department. Josh McDuff provided an overview of the process and physical layout of a retail establishment and referenced the Massachusetts model that operates similar to banks with additional security measures. The committee also discussed hours of operation, and McDuff stated that businesses would not want to stay open late because it would not be cost effective and to ensure safety and security. The committee will reconvene an additional Charter and Ordinance Committee meeting to lay out the specific processes and provisions of the control board once approved by the full board. The committee voted unanimously to recommend to the full board to establish a local cannabis control commission.
Second.
Was that a motion? Was that a motion?
Yeah, well, the committee voted unanimously to make a motion to recommend to the full board to establish a local cannabis control commission.
And you so move?
And I so move.
There you go. And it's been seconded. Alderman DePoy.
One of the things that was discussed in the committee that I do have, I just want to bring up, and that's the fact that on the national level, cannabis is still a Schedule I drug, and I don't think that there are any other businesses out there that sell Schedule I drugs that the federal authorities could come in and arrest for the sale of such. I'm not saying that the feds are going to be targeting cannabis stores in Rutland, but our police chief has already said that they have a problem there when it comes to cannabis sales. If the feds decided to come in, and they can at any time, while it's still against the law at the national level, our police department, I think, would be obligated to assist at the very least if they were asked to. So even it's been one of my arguments the entire time, if the state wants to decriminalize and under state law, that's all fine and dandy, but that's just saying that either state or state police, sheriffs, local law enforcement are not going to arrest for possession or use of cannabis, marijuana. That's where the problem comes in, though, is if our local law enforcement are asked to assist. And in thinking about how we're going to set something up, i.e. a board that, you know, is going to do something to oversee cannabis sales in the city, how is that board going to react, and how is that board going to treat businesses as such, whereas other businesses don't have that hanging over their head? These do. So by, you know, Mr. McDuff expresses concerns and wants to be sure that no business is targeted or singled out compared to other businesses. I just find it very difficult to not have something like that happen in that line of business. They're going to be treated differently. It's inherent in the federal laws and the federal guidelines right now, the federal statutes. And we can't tell the feds, you're not going to come in and prosecute. You're not going to come in and arrest anyone for doing something that's against federal law. I would much rather the feds do something about it. I mean, there are bills in the federal government, but they haven't done anything yet. And to me, it ties both the hands of our law enforcement here. It could potentially tie the hands of a board that we're trying to set up to oversee this. So I want the board to to proceed very cautiously in thinking about this. I know that other states are well ahead of us in cannabis sales, Colorado, California, Oregon, and others, but there are still major federal busts, investigations, and prosecutions that are still going on in those other states. They're just not publicized. I mean, You look it up, and there are. There are others that, I guess, do everything by their state law, by the book. And maybe they're being allowed to continue to operate. Maybe they're small enough under what the feds have decided that they're going to either raid or prosecute, make arrests in those areas. But it's, to me, a real problem for our city to proceed down this road without the feds there doing their part if that's what they so choose. So, I mean, I'm going to vote against this recommendation for the board. Just given that federally, they can come in and seize everything and shut everything down if they so choose. So, that's where I stand on this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Alderwoman Davis?
So, not that I disagree with federal regulations versus what the state has done, and I think Chief KilCullen has certainly spoken to that issue as Sean Sargent, chair of the police commission. But I think what's being asked of us is that we establish a board similar to the Board of Control Commissioners, and we function based on the rules and regulations that the state of Vermont has given us. Whether the federal government shows up and does anything with these cannabis stores is out of our control, whether we have an established board or not. But I think the purpose is similar to why we do a Board of Control Commissioners with liquor, is that we have something to say over what's happening in our community. So if we have no idea how many establishments may open. We know there's one interested, but we will hold them to the same accountability as we hold our bar owners to run a good, safe establishment and follow the rules. We're also a sounding board. It's an opportunity for them to come to us and say that they're having some difficulty with something else that maybe is happening. So I'm not uncomfortable. I think I look at the city attorney, I don't know if it's just putting another column on the front page that says, reports of our Board of Control Commissioners and Board of Cannabis Commissioners. I don't know if it's that simple. I think we also have to certainly understand the regulations, but I don't have a problem moving forward with this because I think we follow our state guidance. What happens with the feds is out of our control anyways.
Alderman Torrey.
Thank you. So I appreciate the certainty and the consistency that Alderman DePoy approaches all of these issues with. I think to Alderwoman Davis's point of what we're voting on tonight is the control board. And that gives us an opportunity to have influence on how cannabis is sold in the community. And so if we want to have an input, if we want to have a direction in how that happens, this is the mechanism to have it. So even if later on Alderman DePoy would like to fight some of the things, having this in place would allow us to do that. If we don't have this in place, we have no say in what happens with cannabis in our community.
Any further discussion? Okay.
Hello?
Oh, sorry. I didn't see
I don't
that.
want anybody else to speak with, but and I thoroughly agree with everything that the two aldermen just said. If we have the board, oversight board, then we certainly have a say here. My problem is that Board of Control Commissioners is a board that oversees licenses for a legal substance opposed to a federally illegal substance. And I'm just cautioning this board as to how this oversight board is set up for a federally illegal substance. And I would just certainly hope that the feds do something in the future. Maybe I'm calling on the feds to, get up and take some action on this issue, because when you still have a Schedule I drug hanging over you, I just have a philosophical problem with that. And I thoroughly get Alderman Ettori's point that we would have future say in this, but I just have a philosophical, political, whatever kind of difference with others about how this should proceed. And to me, it just passing a law that's still not affecting a federal law just doesn't work for me. So.
Any further discussion? Okay, we have a motion on the floor. It's been seconded. Hearing no more discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Thank you, Alderman Neary. Moving on to the parking committee.
All right, before I read out the minutes, there will be an amendment to the motion. So, the Rutland City Parking Committee met on April 21st. Members present, Alderman Neary, Alderman Talbot, Commissioner Rotundo, Chief KilCullen, others present, Officer Rosario, Alderman Doenges, and Ron Ross. The meeting was called to order at 5:33 p.m. First item on the agenda was continuing discussion about on-street parking meters in downtown. Ron Ross from Park Mobile presented virtually on their service. A PDF of the presentation is attached to the meeting minutes. Chair Neary provided the parking map and supplemental information to Ron Ross ahead of the meeting. Park Mobile is the largest contactless parking app in the U.S. with over 30 million users and is currently operating in several towns and cities in Vermont and across most of the Northeast. The adoption rate for Park Mobile is upwards of 60 to 80%. The app can integrate with hundreds of parking systems, including our current Flowbird kiosk system, as well as the Laz parking garage system, eliminating the need to replace expensive kiosk equipment. The app also can work with our current coin-operated meters, providing another option for parkers that do not have coins. The app is user-friendly and works by selecting the on-street parking zone and the time needed. The app will alert the user when the time has expired. The app is completely customizable by the city with an easy-to-use back-end that allows administrators to run reports, analyze data, change parking times and costs, and more. Officer Rosario asked if the system could integrate with the Rutland Police Department's current ticketing system, and Ross confirmed. Officer Rosario stated that the system could make his work much more efficient. There is also 24/7 customer support for both city administrators and end users. Alderman Doenges asked if the city can limit extensions on parking zones. Ross stated that the system is completely customizable and Park Mobile can assist with changes to the system, such as changing the times and zones. Chief KilCullen asked if one parking zone can have different time limits and referenced 1 or 2 15-minute zones on Wales Street, with the rest being 3 hours. Ross stated that they would simply create another zone for the 15-minute areas. The process to transition to Park Mobile is simple with consistent guidance from Park Mobile. The company will set up a kickoff meeting to help the city to organize zones and times. Park Mobile will create custom signage free of cost for the city to install. They will also create a custom marketing and advertising package to assist with outreach, and the app will notify any users of Park Mobile with a one-time notification when they are near Rutland City that we offer the service in downtown. There is no upfront cost to the city to adopt the Park Mobile app, including signage, marketing, customer support, and more. The cost of the service is baked in the parking costs and is 35 cents is a 35-cent transaction fee and is typically paid for by the parker. It is not a by-hour fee, but applied for each transaction. Ross stated that the Park Mobile has not experienced that the additional 35 cents is a deterrent to parking, and in all cases, parking usage and revenue has increased with the app service. Park Mobile can also serve as the MOR, merchant on record, to process fees to be more streamlined. The MOR fee is 3% of total rate plus 20 cents per transaction. Ross stated that this was an industry standard, but typically is not passed on to the customer. Park Mobile could be operating within 2 to 3 months. The committee also discussed current parking rates and asked how they compare to other towns and cities. Chair Neary prepared the below chart to compare the city's rates. The city rate is currently much lower than all other areas and could be minimally raised to account for the park mobile fees. The committee will continue to investigate fees and prepare a recommendation following additional discussions at the next parking committee meeting. The committee voted unanimously to recommend to the full board to select Park Mobile and authorize the city attorney to work with Park Mobile on a contract with the city.
So what we have here is the treasurer's recommended that we go to RFP. So the best process moving forward would be to make the motion that came out of committee, second it, vote on it, reject the motion, right? So vote no on the motion and then suspend the rules, present a new motion and vote on that. Sound good?
Yep.
Okay, so you want to make the
So
motion?
moved.
Second.
Okay, so the motion coming out of committee has been seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Okay. All those in favor? Any opposed?
No.
Okay, motion fails. Alderman Neary.
So I don't know the exact wordage, maybe the city attorney can help me, but motion to approve the mayor to solicit requests for proposals and review the proposals with department heads for a recommendation to the full board.
Okay, great. So we need a motion to suspend the rules.
So moved.
We have a motion to suspend the rules. Has been seconded. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. And then, as Alderman Neary stated, the motion to authorize the mayor to start the RFP process for a mobile parking app.
Second.
Okay, and it's been seconded. Any discussion, questions, or comments? Alderman Tory.
In this conversation, was there any part of that what they do, or is this some part of anything that any of these kind of business companies do, of paying tickets if they did get one through the app? Or
Yep. So that's the MOR. That's like how, right? That was the full integration into our ticketing
There is an
system.
integration. It's not the MOR, but there is a
Oh,
full
right.
integration.
Okay. That's the fees for the service.
that's right.
Yep.
So somebody could pay a parking ticket if they got one through this app.
No.
That's what I mean. Like
They
if
would
got a
integrate
ticket.
into our ticketing system, so it wouldn't be the other way around.
Okay. I was just trying to think if there's an opportunity to make it easier for people to pay if they get a ticket, we could get more revenue. So I was just asking if that was something that was part of any of these apps. If
Yeah.
there's one or another one, if it is, I would encourage us to put it in the RFP.
Okay.
I think this is one of the features that's part of the gov.pilot thing that zoning administrator Trinity has brought to us before, which would potentially integrate with Park Mobile.
Like all licensing.
It could integrate
There was a
pilot.
ticket payment module available as part of that.
Okay. Alderman Davis.
So what or is the initial cost to the city?
No dollars.
Nothing at all, ever?
Nope.
Just the app? I pay for the app? It's an additional cost for me as the user type thing?
No, so
When I park something, no?
So the transaction fee,
Right.
we can push onto a parking consumer by adding the 35 cents on. And then the MOR isn't baked in. If we use them as the MOR, which is like the processing for payment, then that's an additional 20 cents plus 3% of the total rate. So as you essentially, that's where a discussion on the rates matter a little bit to make sure we're covering our costs. But even if we maintained our current costs, it would probably be a wash. But if we raise to a nominal level, there'd be more revenue. And that's something we definitely should talk about. Folks, check out the comparison. One thing that I didn't really notice until doing this, and this is kind of tangential but important, we're the only city in the area that our on-street parking is cheaper than the parking garage. Right. And if our focus should be to get the parking garage filled, we should probably flip that, right? So they are at least $1 an hour, so we should be at least $1 an hour. So we'll talk more about that with a recommendation.
Good idea. I'll leave it at that.
We have a motion to start the RFP process for our parking, parking application. It's been seconded. And Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Thank you, Alderman Neary.
Last one.
And last one for you.
The Rutland City Parking Committee met on April 27th, 2022. Members present, Alderman Neary, Alderman Talbot, Commissioner Rotundo, Chief KilCullen. Others present, Mayor Lair, Alderwoman Davis, Gordon Druschillo, Ray Lamourier, John Santinello, Alderwoman Savage, Alderman Doenges, Ken Putnam, Beth Barra, Attorney Bloomer, Alderwoman Taddeo. The meeting was called to order at 5:31 p.m. The first item on the agenda was the passageway to the parking garage from Center Street. Beth Barra, a transit user, had sent a letter to the Board of Aldermen raising the issue of accessibility, which prompted the referral to committee. Mayor Lair provided an overview of this decision to close the passageway, as Laz had been dealing with issues around drug use, graffiti, and loitering. Ray Lamoria of Laz discussed the issues around roles and responsibilities with the parking garage. Overall, the state of Vermont owns the parking garage, which is leased to the city. Laz is contracted by the city to maintain the upper level parking areas. The bus leases the first floor bus island to operate transit services, leaving major gaps as to which entity maintains the first floor, the bathroom, the lobby, and provides overall security. In addition, the passageway from the garage to Center Street is privately owned and leased to the state. Laz made mention several times that they are not a security company, but due to ambiguity in responsibilities, had felt obligated to provide minor maintenance and monitoring on the first floor. The bus also discussed that their lease did not obligate them to maintain or operate the bathroom or lobby, and were not likely to staff or open the lobby due to statewide fare-free service. The committee also discussed the issues around the closure of the passageway. The group identified a need for additional security personnel and cameras to monitor conditions within the garage and the passageway. Physical improvements, such as removing doors and adding lighting, could also improve safety, but will require state investment and likely a more long-term solution. Rutland Police Department offered support for these solutions, as closure of the passageway has reduced demand on city officers, and noted that additional active patrolling was unrealistic for the understaffed department. The committee also discussed the potential to have the passageway open during daytime transit operating hours from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., but decided to wait until additional discussions could be had with the state of Vermont and the passageway owner. The committee voted unanimously on a motion to authorize the mayor to coordinate a meeting with the stakeholders and form recommendations to present at the next committee meeting. And I so move.
Second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any discussion? Questions? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the motion, please?
Yep. The committee voted unanimously on a motion to authorize the mayor to coordinate a meeting with the stakeholders and form recommendations to present at the next committee meeting.
Thank you.
No problem. Motion's been seconded. Any further discussion? Questions? Okay. Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Okay, moving on to reports of select committees. We have none. Reports of representatives. We have none. Board of Control Commissioners. We have none. Is there any unfinished business to come before the board? Yeah, you raising your hand.
Sorry,
Any unfinished
you're at
business?
miscellaneous?
That's next, almost.
Sorry.
All right, no, it's fine. All right, no unfinished business. Miscellaneous motions, resolutions, and new business. Alderman Franco.
Oh, just a reminder that tomorrow we have our information and technology meeting at 5:30 p.m. in the conference room.
Great. Alderman Talbot.
So as part of the TIF working group, something that's come up is a number of highly visible properties around the city with owners that seem fairly content to let them remain vacant and not particularly interested in actively engaging in redevelopment. So I'm hoping that we can send to committee, maybe charter an ordinance to explore the feasibility of a mechanism for encouraging landlords not to leave commercial properties vacant for prolonged periods of time.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion. It's been seconded. Any comments, questions, or discussion? Okay, Alderman Gillum, and then
I think that's a good motion because other cities, especially New York, Albany, and major Rochester, have things in place to do that because I've already done some investigation. I think it's a wonderful idea to put this in committee and deal with this. Yeah.
Alderman Torrey.
My apologies, I said good luck to the city attorney.
Oh, you were not raising your hand. Very good. Good luck.
You got this, Matt.
Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes, okay.
It's a challenge.
Yeah?
Another thing?
No, yes.
Thanks. So, in the Finance Committee meeting about CSJ, one of my concerns was that we were paying $30,000 for a feasibility study on one little property. This board has authorized $400,000 for a rental rehab program. We've given $100,000 to New Story for somewhat of a housing project. But the city doesn't have, we do not have a strategic plan on what housing is most important for us. And so I would like to refer to finance, potential of funding a citywide housing strategic plan using ARPA, formerly known as ARPA dollars.
I would like to make an.
Hold on one second.
I'll second for debate.
Okay.
Okay, great. So we have a motion that's been seconded. Alderman Neer.
I'd like to make an amendment, if that's possible, to expand that to an entire master plan.
Right.
I don't know if anyone's read our master plan in a while, but it is bad. It's 20 years out of date. It's probably the worst in the county. It would make sense if that was a module within the larger master plan to do a housing sort of feasibility update, because we already have good information from 2013. We could probably just update that versus going through the entire process again. But if possible, this is something I think you spoke to at the last committee meeting, but is desperately needed. And there's no better time, no better source than now, especially with, potential further federal money coming down, in a way to prioritize that and focus our attention in certain ways. So that's my amendment would be to make it a full master plan update.
So do you want to make that an official motion, or do you want to ask for him to amend his motion?
Would you, please?
Okay.
So I would be happy to amend the motion to include that, because I of course agree. We don't even have to go there. But I don't want to lose the housing piece, right? And so if we can do it where the housing comes first as part of the whole, I'm good with that.
Yep.
But I don't want to lose that piece of it. But 100% I agree with you.
I agree with that. That makes sense.
Well, and I also think there's a third wheel, and that's zoning. That's being done now.
Sure.
And zoning is changing. Well, I think folks have to remember, and I don't know that new people do, but the foundation of our grand list is residential housing. It is not business.
Sure.
Like it is in the town. We are reverse. And so we need to protect those residential neighborhoods because that's what generates our grand list dollars. So I think we have to look at zoning, but there are some of the snippets that we've seen, or there's some new development of some new districts or new terms or usages. So I think that's another wheel that we just have to think about, because you could take a street and change that designated use. And I just want to encourage this board, when we look at zoning, to look at it carefully to see what neighborhoods, if any, are changing, and is that the highest and best use for those neighborhoods.
Alderman DePoy.
Well, just piggybacking on that, I mean, an example of that is the areas around the hospital that all the different houses.
Planned office parks. Yeah.
Getting bought up. I mean, they're all tax exempt at this point in time until we do something about that. And when you have all of that, what I would consider prime real estate that's coming off the tax rolls, it makes it a real problem. So it drives up our individual costs in our houses and the residential that she's talking about around the city.
Alderman Torrey.
I don't want to go too far from the motion that's on the floor to what we're talking about. But to the zoning point, I attended my first planning commission meeting as a rep the other day, and I'm going to start trying to report out from that group at least once a month. I will tell you that what I see is exactly what you're talking about, is how to protect residential neighborhoods.
Good.
And they are having good conversations. So I'll try to report out so that everybody knows what's going on as that goes through the process.
I appreciate that, because that's a concern.
Okay, Alderman Gillum.
we've been down this road before. It's very important that we focus, like everybody said, on zoning before we jump into the master plan. We gotta make sure whatever we're doing with zoning matches the master plan or where we wanna go, or vice versa. So it's not three separate pieces, they all gotta work in sync together. I just wanna make sure everybody understands that's how that whole process works.
Great. Further discussion? Okay, let's lay this back out. So the current and only motion on the floor right now is for a housing study. There's been no, and you're willing to adapt the housing study to amend it and have the master plan on it. Are you okay with that? Okay, great. So the motion and the seconder has been okay with that. So now the motion on the floor is to start a housing study along with the master plan. Any comments or questions on that before we vote? Go ahead.
Well, just to clarify, it's a referral to Finance Committee to discuss that.
Thank you.
We're not actually voting on that yet.
Thank you for clarifying. We appreciate it.
It'd be great, can we? But RFP.
Okay, so referral of Finance Committee to discuss a housing study and master plan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much. Is there any other miscellaneous motions, resolutions, or new business? Alderman DePoy.
So, Mr. President, I did get back last week from a vacation down south, and I drive because the cost of vehicles and, to rent and airfare now going through the roof, it just makes more sense for me to drive, and I don't mind it. But one of the things, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, is on the way down, there were a couple of states that had instituted a tax holiday on gasoline. And it was really nice to pay, again, I can't believe I'm about to say this, to pay $3.59 a gallon, okay? Coming from $4.09, I think is about our average around here, $4.14. Coming back, going through those same states, I was surprised to learn that the tax holiday had expired. And I paid $4.49 a gallon in a couple of those same states that only a couple of weeks before I had paid $3.59 a gallon. So there's a little bit of sticker shock as I came back north.
Order oil.
Never mind diesel. I had the opportunity to talk to a couple of state reps that I saw over the weekend, and I mentioned to them, hey, maybe in the state of Vermont, especially since we're between seasons right now, the skiers are pretty much gone, summer travelers haven't really arrived yet, we're in mud season, whatnot, maybe you give the residents of the state kind of a little bit of a tax break for a month or however long you determine, and eliminate just do a tax holiday on the gas. And so I'm not making a motion or anything. I mean, it's up to them in Montpelier to do institute something like this. But what I am asking is if members of the board see any of your state, either legislators or senators, mention it to them. Say, you know, we're not really getting that increased tourism tax, you know, revenue at the pumps. It's mainly you know, our local state residents. Why don't you give us a break for about a month and eliminate the gas tax for a month or something? Just
I think the governor brought it up at his weekly meeting. He said no.
Well, he can get overridden at the legislative level, as we all know. So
I think the bigger picture is federal. I mean, the cost in general is federal. That's where we need to be.
Yeah,
reaching out.
As I said, it was still nice to pay $3.59 where they had the gas tax holidays as opposed to $4.49 on the way back, only a couple of weeks later.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned. Have a good night.